So for really the past decades, whether I've worked with the UN or with universities or with NGOs, we've always tried to really ground the research as much as possible, particularly on topics of climate change impacts. And yet we never succeeded in, I think, not enough in really getting the voices of the researchers and of the science being conducted in the countries into the global fora. And it's always been something that's been bugging me. So within the CGIAR and together with CMARN and MUST, we were able to start thinking how we could reverse the trend, in a sense, that the dialogue and the policy agenda on climate change impacts and human mobility is so dominated by institutions in the global north, and how we could foster more support for research and science in the south, starting with Africa.
So basically, for us to be able to address the societal challenges we have in Africa, including the impacts of climate change, we first need to have an understanding of what's going on. And this is what this academy begins by doing. So from understanding, we then move on to implementation of actionable solutions. So it does provide that opportunity.
This academy is out to bring together the young scholars and bring also the mentors together to write their papers, which are going to be read widely and which are visible in high impact, high visibility journals to influence policy and also scientific discourses.
I'm used to doing project papers, so this was very different. So during the first day, they took us through the basics of academic writing, how to make sure you communicate clearly, because at the end of the day, not everybody's in your field, or neither everybody's your end user. So they taught us to diss the jargons and just make your paper as clear as possible. So regardless of whoever is going to read even the abstract, they can be able to understand it just from the get-go. And also another big takeaway is research to inform policy, because we find most of the time our research papers end up just sitting on the shelves. So instead you can look at the gaps you have wherever the country you're coming from, and just use it as a guidance or some sort of inspiration or motivation for your research paper, and not just doing multiple papers for this sake. Just do papers that have impacts. That's my biggest takeaway.
I think what's so unique about this academy is the mentorship aspect of it. So we've matched up less experienced researchers with more experienced researchers and university lecturers, professors, in a broader mentorship program that started even way beyond this in-person event that we have here now this week. And that will continue all the way through till submission of the manuscripts that the early career researchers work on. So I think the unique aspect here is really the accompaniment throughout the process of drafting a manuscript, getting it ready for submission in a peer-reviewed journal, and really also helping the authors, the researchers, to then navigate the peer review process. That's the idea behind it. And then in addition to that, to do that with some financial support, because of course it's very often difficult to do all this and to travel and to take the time to really write if there's no financial kind of buffer there. So it's not been a lot, but we have a small grants program that also runs with this, and I think this makes also all the difference.
So what we have researchers and scholars from within the continent. They're addressing issues they experience in their daily lives and that their communities experience. So they are bringing their scholarly expertise, skills and knowledge to understand these issues. So basically they are involved in what they are also experiencing or what their people are experiencing.
I mean, these are young people who are starting in their careers. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are young career researchers, people who are just starting off. And they are passionate. I have seen the passion in terms of trying to get as much feedback as possible for their research, but also trying to use the time here, this 1 week that we have been here since Monday, just to make sure that they perfect their work. A number of them are not very conversant with the publication processes, writing and publication processes, and so they are using this time to sharpen and hone their skills on that. And I think the mentors have been very useful in that regard.
And it's also something I've come to learn during the program. It's called co-production, where as scientists and the community come together and produce new knowledge that can be used with the generations to come. So it's an interesting one, and I can't wait for you to see the final paper.
What is going to happen now once we have these high quality articles are being generated and being published? We shall extract some policy briefs from them and have policy dialogue, roundtable dialogue with the policymakers, politicians, and other decision makers, so that they are able to understand how the peace and security and fragility are intersecting to influence sustainable development, to influence women's rights, the rights to food, the right to water, and all these issues. Once they are fully articulated, you will see the policymakers now coming up to develop policies which are relevant to address these challenges.
I think without MUST and CMARN, we could have not done it, first and foremost. I mean, CMARN, I think, is a network that's already well established in the African context. It brings together hundreds by now of researchers, junior, so early career researchers, as well as senior expert on the topic of climate mobility in the region. So they were kind of a natural partner. But more than that, even MUST, I think, to really ground the work and to host also this in-person event was kind of the critical partner in this event. Without MUST, we will not have been able to do it. And for us, it was from the start important to have really partnerships with institutions in Africa. I think the key challenge in the beginning was really to understand what can we do at a relatively small scale, but that will really affect some change and make a difference. So what we did was, rather than come up with some program at our own desks, we went out there and talked to people, to researchers, to academics, to practitioners, policymakers across Africa, really, in East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, trying to gather really what the key challenges are, what are the barriers they're facing, and even without large funds, what we could do to actually make a difference in the work of the early career researchers. And that's where really these two aspects of mentorship, accompaniment, and financial support came through. And in particular, just creating that space and taking the time for people to come together and take the time to really sit and write. That was something that we wouldn't have thought about probably if we just devised or designed the program alone, and instead we really based it on the feedback we got from everyone.
From this academy, we want to bring together the mentors and the fellows to create a community of practitioners who are working in that field. And that collaboration for the future, continued engagement, will likely trigger more discussions and increase the visibility of this field to attract more interest from other partners.
Well, future sponsors will be critical, I think, because for now CGIAR has really kicked this off in a sense on its own and with all the in-kind like time and expertise contributions of its partners in MUST and in CMARN. But ideally, I mean, we're thinking big. We would really, and we're thinking big on the one hand, but also consistency on the other. So we do want to keep quality over quantity to some extent. So we really want to have a program that continues, that builds on lessons every time and improves. And I'd rather prefer to have it as a small cohort that has quality mentorship and produces quality work than like a huge program with less quality. But at the same time, when I say we think big, we also really want to make sure that this is not a one-off, that it's maybe also can expand to other regions, that we can broaden the topic, because of course there's research gaps and also important policy agendas where the African voices, Asian voices, Latin American voices are missing right now across all sorts of, a whole range of topics. So therefore, we would love to see this grow. But for that, yes, future sponsors and donors will have to be critical.